Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick, and this is kind of a part 2. A couple episodes ago, episode 108, I talked about day 1 procedures in our clinic, and more specifically, why I don't adjust. And I said, if you want me to talk about my day 2, I will, because otherwise that episode was going to be like 3 hours long. And people don't like 3-hour long episodes, I'm told. So I said, if you want me to talk about day 2, I will. And then I got a bunch of messages from people saying, yes, please. So before we jump into that, I first need to acknowledge that I am an idiot, and many of you who were listening to a couple episodes ago where I was talking about how I was worried I almost missed our 2-year anniversary, probably were doing math more correctly than me. I did miss it. So here I thought it's coming up soon. You know why, you guys? Because while I was talking into the microphone, I was going, there are 56 weeks in a year, so that means episode 112 will be our 2-year anniversary. There's not 56 weeks, guys. There's 52. There's 52. So that means that episode 104 was our 2-year anniversary, and I missed it. So happy belated 2-year anniversary to She Slays the Day. I didn't do anything on social, whatever. Oops. What are you going to do? So today we are going to be talking about the day 2, and there's so many aspects to this. I'm going to have a lot of prefaces. Before we get in, though, what we're going to do, we're going to start with a listener highlight. Okay, so this one is from Axon Health, and it says, so much good insight. I love this podcast for many reasons. The first being that the advice is relevant and applicable to not only chiropractors, but a lot of it is also applicable to people in general. Dr. Lauryn is great at giving multiple perspectives and realizing that advice is not universal, that it is highly dependent on the context and person, and she addresses this diligently. Thank you for realizing that by BTW, because that's a big part of today's episode as well. The second reason, this person goes on, is that Dr. Lauryn is unapologetically herself. It's always refreshing to listen to. If you're a chiro and haven't already listened to the podcast, you're about to want to binge listen for the next several days. Whoop, whoop. Yes, go binge listen. Go. There are some good episodes, you guys. Oh my gosh, I wanted to bitch slap someone the other day. I didn't. I held it together. But it's another chiropractor. And I said, have you gotten a chance to listen to any episodes? And she's like, no, I feel like the show's mostly for 20-year-old chiropractic students. So inside my head, don't worry, she's not going to know because she doesn't listen to the show. But inside my head, I'm thinking what? What? We have conversations on marriage and spiritual growth and firing people and whether you're ready for an associate and evolving as a human and spirituality and consciousness, and the list goes on and on and on. So I don't really remember what I said. I think I was just interesting. Haven't gotten that one. I don't think I even was that passive aggressive. But in my head, I totally was. But I've been reading a lot of Joe Dispenza lately, and holy cow, that guy is intense. Talk about people who are here to do work. That man was created and put on this planet to do some serious brain altering work. If you haven't listened to much Joe Dispenza, I started kind of down the wormhole. Well, I bought a book a long time ago, How to Change the Habit of Being Yourself, which when you buy, thank God for Amazon, because I feel like when you used to have to go buy books at a bookstore, if I were a book patron selling person, I would totally judge the books that people got. So like if somebody was buying like Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, I'd be like, oh snap, are you okay? Like, do you want to go grab coffee? You seem like a decent person. But you can just buy it on Amazon now, and just Amazon warehouse employees can judge you. So I bought that like 2 years ago, and it is, even though it's a relatively short book, like 200-ish, 250 pages, reading 2 pages is like reading a textbook, and you're just like mind blown. But he was just on Jay Shetty's podcast, which is one of my like podcasts that I'm jamming lately. If you haven't read Jay Shetty's How to Think Like a Monk, that is a great summer read. Love it. And I'm like, all right, well, let's give old Joe another chance. And I listened to him. I'm liking listening to him because I can't stop to fixate on the sentence that he just said and reread it 17 times and let my world implode. I kind of just have to keep going because he keeps talking. So not sure how I got on this. Oh, how I handled, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and call that negative feedback on the podcast is I thought, you know what? This is a moment for my brain to take over my body and not have this trained autopilot pattern of getting defensive and ego getting in the way. And this is my opportunity to like my brain to take over and do something different and not be on autopilot and get pissed off that someone said, your podcast is just for 20-year-olds. It's fine. I'm fine. No, I am fine. I swear. Okay. So let's do a list. No, you guys, I already read the listener highlight. Too much coffee. This is where we talk about the question. So like I said, on episode 108, I reached out and I was like, if you want me to talk about day 2, I will. For all of you non-chiro people, I think this is going to be a really boring episode for you. I'm not going to lie. There are other episodes. But this is a very heavy chiropractic procedures episode. So this is from Taylor B. And she sent me a DM and said, hey, Lauryn, I just listened to your Why I Don't Adjust on Day 1 episode and feel like you just exploded my brain. Yep, me and Joe Dispenza, you guys, were just blowing up people's brains. Similar things, right? Me, social media, him, neurology, whatever. I'm a pediatric and prenatal cash chiro who's been in practice for almost 4 years and have been so frustrated with patients lately. Like, I don't get it. I'll tell them it's going to take at least 12 to 18 visits, and then I'm lucky if they make it to visit 10. But they're always so nice about it, saying like, you fixed it. And I'm like, no, actually, I didn't yet. Will you please go over your day 2 procedures on an episode? Pretty please. Thank you, Taylor. Okay, Taylor. Yes, I will. But I've got about 17 prefaces before we jump in. But we're going to pray first. Dear God, thank you so much for chiropractic. Let that be the underlying message of today, of that when we're talking about selling, it can be difficult because we can feel like we're being inauthentic or non-transparent. And the reality is that people are being so bombarded with the opposite message that we are not used to. So much of us are just being force-fed Burger King commercials and pharmaceutical commercials and all these things. And then we go to the office and we're bombarded by coworkers who are, telling us it's normal to not get good sleep and it's normal to not poop and it's normal and it's normal and it's normal. And so as chiropractors, we need conversations like this. We need conversations from people who believe heavily in what we do, to train other chiropractors that it's okay to sell chiropractic. In fact, it is essential to sell this beautiful, amazing thing called chiropractic because they're not going to get this anywhere else. So bless everyone listening. As always, put a shield around everyone's heart and ego that we are never casting shame or judgment on any chiros for whatever they choose to do or not do in their clinic. Also put a circle a cone of silence? No. Around any patients, any non-Kairos listening who may think like, oh, that's how she manipulates or strategizes people. Remember, this is coming from a place of thinking chiropractic is the coolest thing in the world. So in your name we pray, amen. All right, so preface number 1, I am not going to give you a script today. If you have pen and paper ready and you are just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to record every single thing she says and I'm going to memorize it and regurgitate it, I'm not going to do that. Although you actually may want to have pen and paper handy today for this one, but you can always go back and re-listen. So the reason I'm not going to give you a script is not because I don't think scripts work. To be honest, when you're starting out, scripts can be fantastic. I believe in the phrase, fake it till you make it, because a lot of times we are waiting for to feel a way about something before we act, right? But sometimes you just need to act and talk like you feel that way or believe that way until you get confidence. You'll understand what I mean. Another reason I'm not going to give you a script is because it'd be borderline plagiarism. I have been in practice for almost 11 years. I have coached with amazing people. I have listened to podcasts by amazing people. I have listened to the ROF for non-Kairos review of findings. It's what we call the day 2 a lot of times. It's where we go over what we found on day 1, review of the findings of day 1. And so I don't want to take credit. And also, holy cow, there is no one script that I give anymore. So there's an outline, and that's going to generally be what I walk you through today. But it really depends on the person I'm sitting across from. Okay, there are some times where that person, for whatever reason, right out of the gate, they're getting it, and they're just like, yep, that makes sense. And they want you to kind of get to your point. They want to know, they're pretty much already in, and they're like, I'm buying, just shut up and tell me how much do I need to come and what's it going to cost? Here's my credit card. And they get really annoyed. And then there are some people who need to hear, a little more of the breakdown of chiropractic and why. Some people really get down this wormhole of needing to know that it's not just that they slept wrong, that the emotional stress that they've been carrying for the last 5 to 10 years is a part of this. Some people understand that this problem has been growing for years. And so I don't need to spend as much time talking about the buildup of micro trauma on the nervous system. Some people are like, oh yeah, I agree. I think this has probably been 10 years coming. And it's like, great. So I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. I might need to go down a different rabbit hole. So there is no one size fits all script for everyone because it wouldn't work well that way. You need to more understand the outline and understand what is the sales process, and start to learn people. As an Enneagram 3, we are sometimes called the chameleon of the spirit animal world, which kind of sucks in a lot of personal life. Let's just be honest, not really knowing who your authentic personality is it can make for some weird relationships. And self-identity crisis, whatever. But it's pretty awesome on day 2 because you quickly learn what they're saying, what that means, what they need to hear from you. Okay, so if you're not a 3, don't worry. Let's see. Also, you're gonna need, we are a 99% cash practice. The only insurance we use is Medicare. That does change the financials talk at the end. So you're going to need to check. There's also state laws in Wisconsin. There's certain state laws around people buying packages and things like that. So I don't go super in depth with our financial process for a reason, because I don't want to give you advice that you are going to get in trouble with. I will say that if you are in network with somebody's insurance that you're giving a day 2 for, there are still ways, we'll kind of circle back to that, hopefully, if I remember, when we do get to that point of like signing up for care. So yeah, you're going to basically have to cover your own ass. So I'm going to give like the 30-second recap of day one. Episode 108, we talked about how we do not adjust on day one. I highly recommend you go back and listen to it, even if you want to adjust on day one. You can still do this day two process, okay? Like, it's a little gray area in my brain, but I still think you can still do this. But how I end day one, they come, they've already done their paperwork. They were told on the phone, you will not be being adjusted because day one is a fact-finding mission. I don't think they say the word mission. They should. It's a discovery. No, so they're already told on the phone, you're not going to be getting adjusted. Then they come in, I sit down with them, I ask all the questions, they get a nerve scan. And basically one of the things that so whether they get their nerve scan first and they talk to me second, and then like I'm the last person saying goodbye, or they talk to me first and then they get a nerve scan second. It kind of depends on flow of our clinic. When I'm handing them off to the scanner, I will say something along the lines, and I don't think I said this in episode 108. So I have all the information I need. Now I just need to see your nerve scan results. Between now and your day two, I am going to sit down with the other doctors. We are going to go over everything we found, and we are going to put together a custom game plan for what you have going on. You're going to get a ton of information. At day two, my goal is that you fully understand why X, Y, or Z symptom is presenting, and you are going to fully understand how long it's going to take to correct it and how much it's going to cost. So anybody in the family that would be interested in understanding, why you're doing chiropractic and why it costs so much, or like is it a part of making the financial decisions, they are welcome to come to that, and I highly encourage that. Okay, sound good? I'll see you in a couple days. So here's the deal. I would love to be more strict around, especially with kids. Oh my gosh. We have had a smattering of kids starting care who really, really need chiropractic, but like on a deeper level than their back pain that they're presenting. But mom and dad are divorced. Like, it's just so weird how like the universe throws you these patterns. But like, I think in the last month, we've had 3 kids who are getting bad back pain, but also deal with like anxiety, like pretty bad anxiety. And mom comes and says like, yeah, just so you know, dad's not on board with chiropractic, but he is going to be covering half. So what I would love to do is be like, okay, both of you need to be at that day two. Here's the problem, and this is where I kind of waffle and kind of wuss out as a chiropractor. I don't know if I'm wussing out or if I'm just being like empathetic. Let's just imagine for a sec that I brought my kid to the chiropractor, and you tell me at the end of day one that I have to call my ex-husband and sit in a room with him and listen to you explain. Like, no thanks. I divorced him for a reason. Like, no, I don't want, he does. So we don't force it, but we really do try on day one. When we see a situation where we think somebody is going to have to, at the end of day two, go like, well, I have to talk to my husband about it. It's like, okay, obviously that's fine. It's not that we care that people make decisions as a collaborative communication team. That's great. Like, I don't know that I would make a $2,000 decision without calling my hubby first. But if that's the way you're going to roll, then the husband should probably be in the room. The partner should be in the room, because then what happens is 99%, all right, I pulled 99% out of my butt. I'm going to say a solid 90% of the time. If at the end of my spiel of day two, if I get, well, I'm going to have to talk to my husband about this, it's a no, because they're going to go home. I spent years perfecting the communication and the why behind what we're doing, and why it's going to take 36 visits, why it's going to take 48 visits, why it's going to cost this much, why we're not submitting to insurance. And they go home and do a crap job to their partner, and their partner goes, that's stupid. Let's just call my guy. He lets me go whenever I need it. And I'm like, damn it, I lost you. I lost you forever. So anyways, but we're not super strict about it. Some clinics are very strict. So that's how we end day 1. So as we're entering day 2, we go, what is the goal of day 2? So the obvious goal of day 2 is to get them to say yes, right? Like that's kind of the objective because everybody needs chiropractic. The how is the little bit deeper of the like, what's your think before you go in, okay? The goal isn't to get them to say yes. The how is you might go to educate them. That might be like, well, how are you going to get them to say yes? What is your like, you're going in with your mindset. I'm going to educate. So we're going to take a step back here and pull some expertise from a book that I love by Simon Sinek. It's something like Know Your Why or Start With Why. I think he actually has 2 books that have the word why in it. And so he says that the goal is not to do business with everyone who needs, okay, I'm just going to insert chiropractic, okay? He doesn't say that, but he says your product. So your goal on day 2 should not be to sell 100% of people sitting across from you on chiropractic. Now, my day 1 procedures pretty much has filtered out a lot of people at this point. They don't get to day 2 unless they're kind of in it a little more, because he says it is your goal to do business with everyone who believes what you believe. Okay, this is going to make your day 2s easier. This is going to make your life easier, your practice happier, people stick around longer. Of like, if on day 2, this person, now you don't need to get them from point A to point Z, right? Like Denise Weber's Communication Lab, I think it like really talks a lot about this, that where we're on the side of error as chiropractors is we think we need to explain everything about chiropractic and get them to commit to lifelong care on day 2. That should not be your goal. You've got time for that. But ultimately, you should lay down a little bit of like, this is how we roll in this clinic. These are the things. This is our why. Okay. So that's where Simon Sinek is talking about of they should buy not your what, but they should buy your why. Now, here's why they should buy your why, is where we make decisions is from a place of our brain called our limbic brain. Our limbic brain is our emotions, it is our feelings, and it is where we establish trust. This part of our brain controls behavior. So you might think like that the analytical part of our brain that like receives facts and this and that is the part that influences behavior. And according to Simon Sinek, that's not true. The limbic brain is what influences our behavior. The limbic brain doesn't have language. It can't put words to why we're making a decision. Now, that's why people will use data and research to validate the decision they're making. But it's why we kind of get that it's a gut decision, or why someone will say it doesn't feel right. You may have all of the evidence in front of them of why they need chiropractic. But if it doesn't feel right to them, they are not going to buy. That's important. It's really, really important because so many chiropractors think that the point of going in to the day 2 is to educate the ever-living crap out of them so people know it is the right thing. They need to feel it is the right thing. And how you do this and why, oh my gosh, I sent a Marco Polo to Tony Ebel, if any of you guys know, a couple of months ago, and I was like, damn it, I'm so good at the day 2, I can't even get rid of people I'm trying to get rid of because it's just, you understand so much with time and experience that I am so on fire for this damn thing I am selling. Like somewhere along the lines, I graduated as like a new, so like when I first started practice and I was really insecure and I wasn't really even doing ROS, but what, as I started, maybe not right out of school, let's say 4 or 5 years in, when I started doing care plans and I had to sell the patient 36 visits and no, your insurance isn't going to cover it, you're going to need to cover it. I was choking on those words and I did not convert as much. Back then I probably had somewhere between a 70 to 80% conversion because I wasn't sure that 36 visits was going to change their life. Now I am so on fire and believe in chiropractic. Like it is just pumping through my blood. So when I sit down to talk to a patient about chiropractic, do I vomit philosophy on them? No, but they can connect to my why. My why is not because I need their $2,000 to pay my mortgage. Luckily, I've gotten past that where I am not counting the dollars coming in to pay my bills. It's why we say no to some patients. Like, nope, you're not tough for us. Because I don't need their money. Is coming from a why of not anger, but like not even frustration, not even from a negative place, but just like, I am the only one in my town, you guys, who does this. There are 10 other chiropractors. Okay, it's only a town of 9,000 people, right? So there are 10 other chiropractors in our, 15 other in our county, and nobody else does care plans. Nobody else talks stress. Nobody else talks anxiety. Nobody else talks about these things that I am just like, oh my God, you are leaving so much on the table. They're just pain, which is fine, good for them. So when they get to me, by the time they have gotten to me, maybe they've tried other chiropractors, but they're here for some reason. If they loved what the other chiropractors were selling, they wouldn't be sitting across from me. So by the time they get to me, they are just so like, you're different. And I like it. I like it a lot. Because I know my why. I know why I am selling them what I'm selling them. So somewhere along the line, I graduated from a fresh used car salesman to being like, yeah, sure, that Pontiac with 140,000 miles is it's a good buy, good investment. Not to beat on Pontiacs, I don't know cars. To all of a sudden, I am selling the best. I'm selling you a brand new Subaru. This thing has the safest features, your family. I am on fire about putting your family in this car. So, I'm a pretty damn good salesman now. Okay, so we talked about the limbic brain. We talked about how you need to know your why, because when you communicate that, you are going to come across more trustworthy, and you're going to tap more into their limbic part of their brain, their feeling parts. So what I would say is my goal isn't to educate on day 2, although I do use analytics and data and objective stuff to support the feelings that they're feeling. But I have accidentally sold someone a care plan without even talking about their scans. I was like, oh shoot, I didn't even get to the analytics because we were just connecting so well that I knew the sale was done. And I was like, oh, okay, let's just do this. So the point is connect. You want to connect your why to their life. Your why in our clinic, I don't know what your why is, but I will explain to them that the purpose of day 1, I will say this out loud. The purpose of our day 1 is to figure out if you're a candidate for chiropractic, and even more detailed, to figure out if you're a candidate for this clinic. Because in this clinic, we are not interested in mediocre results. We are interested in amazing, life-changing results. And that's not for everyone. Some people are only interested in getting a few adjustments until the pain goes away and are not interested in the iceberg below the water of, and then I go into whatever kind of relates to them. That's where I'll kind of pick specific symptoms if they have really bad seasonal allergies or depression or whatever. I kind of just jumped into my script there. Side note on scripts. Scripts are not bad. They're really, really not bad. because if you are reinventing the wheel every single time from square one when you go in, that's a lot of energy drain. I have showed up for work and been like, this patient just rescheduled, just so you know, you got to go in. They're like waiting for you. And I need to be able to sell a 48 visit care plan quickly. So like I can anchor to lots of different scripts. So you'll hear me as we continue through this go like, oh, you can tell she's said that a few times. And it doesn't make it less authentic, people. Like I truly believe in that. If you want it, like, and I will preface the whole damn conversation. So like I haven't even gotten into anything. This is like sentence 3 or 4 out of my mouth where I am going, listen, chiropractic might be for you. That's my underlying message to them, but I'm not going to let you in here. Now, a little psychology of what this does is this will plant a seed of FOMO of like, oh snap, is she not going to let me come here? Like, it's a little strategic move, but it's also honestly being like, it's okay if this is not for you. If we get through this whole thing and you go not for me, totally fine. Totally fine. But I am not interested in mediocre. I have seen way too many patients sign up for quote unquote chiropractic looking to get mediocre results. And basically what is that? I want the electric shock down my leg to stop. Yeah, that's all you're looking for? Mediocre. I can do that in my sleep. Challenge me a little bit. So chiros, I will go then into doctors, that chiros are doctors of the nervous system. And that we never originated as pain-based doctors. I don't go into the whole story, people, okay? For all you non-chiros listening, the first story is pretty damn cool, and I am gonna say it here just for 30 seconds. The first chiropractor was like an anatomy doctor or like teacher, and had like a hypothesis because they had this deaf janitor that had a bone sticking out of his neck. And the tenacity of this anatomy doc, like knew the map of anatomy and was like, hey, if I push on this bone, that's connected like kind of with hearing. You guys, the guy got his freaking hearing back. And there is the birth of chiropractic and the chiropractic adjustment. They actually thought they had found the answer to deafness. So it actually took a little bit. But anyways, I don't tell anybody that. Unless I think they need to hear it. And that's pretty rare. So usually all I will say is chiropractic started as doctors of the nervous system. That is what we are. And your nervous system is like a circuit breaker. And like I kind of will connect the like fuse box theory. Then I will tend to go into the Merrick chart, right? Like I can't believe how many people have been going to chiropractors for years and they've never seen the Merrick chart. Holy cow. Again, for those not knowing what I'm talking about, the Merrick chart is an anatomy based, like it is scientifically based map of where the nerves leave your spinal cord and which organs and glands and cells they go to. It is what makes chiropractic the most logical profession that is almost so logical, I feel like neurologists and like can't fathom. They're like, I don't get it. I don't get why it's more than pain. And it's like, it's so simple, it's complicated. So something so simple is a really nice tool to use with patients on day 2. Because in a matter of about 2 minutes, going like, your body is like, there's nothing that happens in your body without a signal and direction from the brain, the CEO. When you have a vertebrae that, and I use the word subluxated in our clinic. I don't usually define subluxation. The only time I really will define subluxation is if I'm sitting across from like a physical therapist or a medical doctor. I will kind of go, okay, can we just talk about the word for a second? I get that in your world, subluxation means more of like a dislocation. When I'm saying that word in this clinic, it's not that. I'm not saying that. But again, this is where I'm saying like, I will use that if I think that is going to be a hurdle for the rest of them being at clinic, like being a patient here. If they're thinking like, are they implying my T6 is dislocated? This person's a whack job. Because if they get an x-ray, the radiologist is going to say no subluxations present. A lot of radiologists say that because they mean it that way. So anyways, where was I talking about? Okay. Oh, merit chart. So I will go over a little bit of the analytics, okay? However you need to do that, however in depth you need to do that. Do you need to, for this patient, really lay out the concept of fight or flight versus rest and digest? Do you need to go into the 3 different ways that we get a subluxation? Physical stress, emotional stress, chemical stress, whatever you need to do. We do nerve scans in the clinic. Those things, you can nerd the F out on those scans. And I will tell you with whatever objective findings you are doing. So if it's a posture screening, if it's an x-ray, reminder, people do not make decisions from their analytical place. This is the person, if you go too in depth with explaining and nerding out and educating, they will need to go home and absorb all that information to make a rational decision. So it's not a guarantee. For some of you, you're like, I go way in depth and I sell all day. Good job. Don't change it if it's working, please. That should have been preface number 17B in the beginning of this. If you are nailing 95+% of your ROFs and I say something you disagree with, don't change it. But even if you can take a little thing and use it and get from 90% to 95%, or 95 to 99, whatever. I don't know if 99%, that's a reasonable expectation, especially if you have good systems and procedures on filtering out day 1. So we're going over the analytics. We don't get too far in. Now, here's the deal. Do not be afraid if you feel like you have gone a little into the wormhole. You still need to go over what that finding means, but you're in the weeds. Don't be afraid to literally sit back in your seat, because a lot of times when we're going over whatever at the desk, the patient and I are both leaned in, right? Do not be afraid to take a breather in your data analytics to bring them back down, okay? To keep them from getting overwhelmed. This could literally be anything like if there's a toddler in the room and you're talking to mom and dad and the toddler comes up and says says anything. They want a snack. And the patient's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I have to get a snack out of my purse. And be like, oh, no, don't be afraid. Don't just sit there and be silent and wait until you have their attention back. Take that opportunity to breathe. Be like, oh gosh, no problem. What's on the snack for today, you guys? Ooh, veggie straws. I love those. I had to stop myself from buying a giant bag at Costco because I would find they'd be gone. This is okay. It is not a tangent. It is actually meaningful time with that patient. You are getting their brain to connect with you and trust you on an emotional level. The limbic brain. That is fantastic, okay? So do not be afraid to get off subject for 60 seconds, 2-3 minutes even, telling a story. And I'll kind of explain some of the stories I tell that actually are purposeful. But just don't be afraid. That's not wasted time. That is actually giving their brain a breather so they can come back. So, okay. So if you're back to your analytics, great. You're going over your objective findings. Okay. So one of the first things, once I'm kind of done with the analytics, is I will start with frequency needed, okay? So in our clinic, and this is just you do you, boo, okay? In our clinic, if you are coming for corrective care, you are 3 times a week. There is no 2 times a week unless your schedule will not allow you. 3 times a week is what research shows is needed to break a habit, a neuro habit, whether you're training for a 5K or doing physical therapy exercises. And I will literally say this to the patient. So when we're talking about frequency in our clinic, we are looking at either corrective care or wellness care. Corrective care is when a patient presents and they have symptoms that they no longer want to have, whatever they may be. Now, science shows that if you want to undo a bad pattern, relearn a new habit, it requires repetition. This is why if you are training for a 5K, you will have to run. How many times a week do you think you'd have to run? people will insert 5 times, 6 times, 7 times a week. Have you ever tried to lose weight? I use that very sparingly. I don't know. I just don't like to bring up weight loss, but I will tell you, it freaking works because most people have tried to lose weight in their life and they get it. They get that on a freaking emotional level. They have been frustrated, so they know how hard it is to lose weight. So I do use it. So I'll say if you wanted to lose 5 pounds, how many times did you have to go to the gym? And they'll laugh and go every day, right? And I'll be like, right. So unfortunately, chiropractic is the deliverable. It is the pill. It is the rehab exercise. It is the workout. And I can't send it home with you. So the good news is I'm not going to make you come 5 to 7 times a week. We've kind of emotionally anchored to that, which is nice. So when I say, in this clinic, when we are looking at retraining a pattern, 3 times a week is what we do. They're almost kind of relieved that I didn't say 5 to 7 times a week, right? Now, that comes from I believe in 3 times a week. Because in 10 years, what I have seen is I don't get as good or as fast results with 2 times a week or 1 time a week. Does it mean that people who do 2 times a week don't get results in the beginning? No. I would say 60 to 75% of people get good results with 2 times a week. It takes longer, but a much higher percentage of people get good, great, amazing results with chiropractic when we're more at that 3 times a week. And I'll even do 5 times a week. If I've got a baby with colic or some, acute symptoms, we'll do 5 times a week. So we start with this, and I do not do anything until I get them to basically, I feel like they emotionally understand why they're going to need 3 times a week. I don't move on yet. Now, if they're kind of uncomfortable by this frequency, I will assure them that in this moment, I don't say this unless, if they're oh, yep, that makes sense, then I don't have the second part. If I'm getting wide eyes of, holy crap, 3 times a week, I will then take a moment to go, now here's what a lot of people who were worried about whether they were going to make it 3 times a week have told us. They love how flexible we are. They love how efficient our appointment times are. So they're very easy to schedule around their life, So I try and get them, if there's a roadblock of how am I going to get here, I try and address that before I get to how long this is going to go. So, okay, so I'm getting them on board with me, all right, this is going to be 3 times a week. You get that? So then I go, all right, let's talk about how long we need to do 3 times a week for. This is where it's a good moment to tell a story that is relevant, okay? Again, take the time. You are going to be crossing the finish line and getting either a yes or no. So I am going to tell you my favorite story. It is a true story. It works because it's truth. It's not a lie, but I use it frequently. So I will go, okay, so let's talk about how long we're going to need to do 3 times a week for. And I'll say, do you know anybody who's had braces, orthodontic braces? Most people say yes. I'll be like, okay. So the average person has braces for somewhere between 20 to 24 months. Now, that takes that long because the teeth don't move overnight. And I did have braces, okay? So when I was 12, I was told I was going to have braces for, about 2 years. And I remember one day I had an appointment to get my braces tightened. And I looked in the mirror before my appointment and my teeth were straight. And as a cocky 12-year-old, I thought, holy shit, I don't swear, only when I'm on the podcast. Unless I think that is going to lighten the mood, and that's that kind of patient that wants to hear me drop a tiny curse word, but most of the time I don't swear. And so, as a cocky 12-year-old, I thought, oh my God, I am the greatest person ever. I am getting my braces off an entire year early. My teeth are straight. Now they already know where I'm going with this story. And you guys, this is true as hell. So I went in, my orthodontist, he was old. He, at the time, I thought he was 80 years old. Now he's probably only 55, had this thick white mustache. I include these details. Why? Because I am about to get a emotional decision from them in a little bit, so I don't want them too far in their head. So I'm just bringing down the energy, just bring it down. And so I went in, Pretty sure I was getting my braces off. I think we both know now as adults, I understand why, but he laughed at me, because he knew what would happen is if he took the braces off the second my teeth were straight. And you guys, it clicks. It clicks. So I just planted a major seed for what's going to happen in a 4-month care plan when they presented with what they thought was just migraines, and they're a month in and they don't have migraines anymore. I've planted the seed. I've planted something that I can anchor back to that keeps them with me of like, no. Remember the long term. Remember, So I will tell this. They get it. They get a good chuckle. Now, another thing that is nice about this story is I just anchored to 2 years in this story. So I will say, now the good news is you do not need to do 3 times a week for 2 years. And I encourage you guys, please make up your own relevant story. Don't use mine unless you have to, but you better sell it, okay? Cocky 12-year-old orthodontist with white mustache. These are all important. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Use your own story. Okay, so I will say, now, good news is nowhere near 20 months. You have some things going for you. Now, this is where I'll start to waffle around or like corner, begin narrowing in around the months I'm going to tell them. Now for you guys, this might be weeks, okay? Like this is just my process. We do longer care plans because nerve scans require it. So I will say now, if you had never been to a chiropractor before, if you didn't take such good care of your body, if you didn't do yoga, if you didn't, whatever, I'll use some of those things that they're doing good. We would be looking at probably closer to a 5 to 6 month care plan, okay? So I'm saying like, good thing that you've done chiropractic before. If you hadn't, or whatever, is good. Good thing the birth was so amazing. Good thing you did great things good thing you went to chiropractor during your pregnancy and birth was great. If not, we may be looking at this long of a care plan. On the other hand, if you, and this is where I'll say a con, like something like now, I don't know, if you maybe wouldn't have waited 5 years and came in right at the first sign or whatever, I'll say kind of like we would be looking at closer to a 1-month care plan, okay? So I've kind of gone, if you weren't as good as you were, it'd be longer. But you have these things working against you, so it's not that short. And I start waffling in, and then so I'll go like, okay, so therefore, knowing all of the things working for you and against you, I'm predicting that the 3 months is going to get you amazing results 3 times a week, okay? Now, I have not shown any money at this point. I need them to kind of understand and emotionally agree. So I got them to agree to 3 times a week. Then I got them to agree to 3 months. Now, if I see these deer in headlights, holy crap, 3-month care plan, like what? I address it now. I don't go to money if I don't have them emotionally committed to 3 times a week for 3 months. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to go, yes, I understand, but like you get a vibe. You get a vibe. Are you with me? Are you with me? Okay. So as long as they're with me and there's nothing that needs to be addressed, then I go to financials. I do my own financials. Lots of doctors do not do their own financials. Do I think that one day I probably won't do my own financials? Maybe. I'm a little bit of a control freak. So here's my concern and why I still hold on to financials is if I think I have them on the hook, that's a gross phrase, selling. That doesn't come from an empathetic standpoint. If I think emotionally the patient is on board with chiropractic, and they're like, yeah, and I think I've sold them, and I hand them off to my financial liaison, and that person doesn't sign up for care, my personality is not to go, oh, what did I do wrong? My personality is to go, I had them. How the F did you lose them? So to not put my employees in that awkward place where they're like, they actually weren't as on the hook as you thought. As soon as the doctor left the room, they yada yada. I do my financials. So so they've emotionally agreed. I go, now on the next page, there is a lot of numbers. I am going to explain all of them to you. Stay with me. Otherwise, what happens is just because of the way that we have our financial sheet set out And I would share it with you guys, but it really is not going to work for you unless you're 100% cash. Like it's not. So what is normal thought process is they are going to be quickly scanning with the eyes to get the answer of how much is this going to cost in the fastest way possible. So I just try and go like, okay, stick with me. I'm going to explain everything. So then I pull out the how much is this going to cost type of thing. We have the visual. So I'll go, okay, what you're buying is 36 adjustments, 3 times a week for 3 months. If we paid as you go, if you paid for every single visit as you go, or we were submitting to your insurance, you would end up paying us $60 a visit. Okay, I'm just throwing, you guys don't anchor to these. You're going to have to use them your own. What we do in this clinic instead, so what I did right there is basically told them they don't have the option of paying as you go. Because I didn't say if you'd like to pay as you go, or if you'd like to submit to insurance, it could be $60 a visit. I say like if you were paying as you go, or we were submitting to your insurance, you would be paying $60 a visit. What we do instead, okay, there is no like, sure, I'll take that option, is we give a clerical discount. You're going to save $15 on every adjustment by you committing to care, picking a pre-planned payment that automatically happens and pre-scheduling your appointments. It brings your amount down to here. Now, from this point, you have 3 options. Option 1 is the best value. You're going to save an extra $5 on every adjustment by pre-purchasing all 36 adjustments up front. You guys, I cannot tell you enough. If you are listening and planning on saying this, make sure what you are doing is legal. In my state, because I'm not in network with insurance, I don't do this with Medicare patients. You can't do this with Medicare patients. This is for straight, I am not in network with your insurance and I am following all my state laws. This is what it is. So use what works, but make sure you're doing what's legal. Okay. So I'll say, so this is the best value. You're going to save an extra $5 on every adjustment by pre-purchasing all 36 adjustment. This works fantastic for people who have an HSA, an FSA, or a credit card you get great points on. Okay. I like throwing those options out there because a lot of people think that if we're not using their insurance, they can't use an HSA or FSA, which is wrong. There's also like weird like HSA, FSA rules about like when they can actually get reimbursed. We go down that rabbit hole. If someone says, oh yeah, I'm gonna use the HSA, I'll be like, okay, let me explain more how we're gonna use it. So I'll immediately go like, if that doesn't work for you, no big deal. Then you can either pay monthly or weekly. Then you would have 8 payments of this or 4 payments of this. I'm very careful about the numbers I say out loud. So I will say things like in the beginning, I say like $60 a visit if you pay as you go. I will say you're going to save $15 on every adjustment. That brings the amount down to here. I didn't say the total. It's just like this little psychology thing where like, you don't need to freak them out by saying, so that brings your total down to $1,986.47. Like, you're going to save $15. And then like this one, you can save an extra $5 and it'll bring your total down to here. If not, no worries. We can make 8 payments of this or 4 payments of this. This is the best piece of advice I ever got. I wish I knew who it was. It might have been from Epic Practice. I don't know. I don't want to. When you are done with your financials, listen up. If you are multitasking, listen. This is the best piece of advice I've ever gotten. You go, what would you like to do? And you shut up. You did not lose me there. There was no like glitching out. You say, what would you like to do? Or which option works best for you? And you shut up. The silence is them figuring out how they're going to pay for it. They are doing math in their head. They are moving money around in their head. They are figuring out if they can maybe stop putting so much money towards their student loan for the next 3 months and just pay the minimum payment and use this. They are figuring it out. Don't get in their way. If there's an objection that arises, it will be the first thing out of their mouth. If they're confused on something, it will be the first thing out of their mouth, okay? It is awkward. And it requires practice. I think the first couple times I did it, I was like, so maybe which option do you think is gonna work best for you? Like I just stumbled on so many words. I was so unsure about it. Which option works best? Not, does this sound okay? Like, is this okay? Like, are any of these gonna work? No. Which option works best? And you shut up. All right? So, listen, like, we don't do a pay-as-you-go. If they ask about that, so I can't just pay as I go, that's possibly one of the biggest objections, I will say, no, we don't do this in the clinic. And here's why. This is not like out of my ass answer. This is the truth. In my experience, patients who do not commit to themselves do not get amazing results. They do not make it to the finish line. They sell themselves short and quit as soon as the teeth are straight, or, whatever. And they get it. They get I'm not just trying to be mean, but they truly don't. They don't get to the finish line. The other thing that works really nice with, if you can legally get them committing to an automated payment from the beginning, is it's a very smooth transition into wellness care. If you're going to let them pay as they go, and then you graduate them to wellness care, and you're going to try and get them on any kind of like wellness program or yada, yada, they're not going to like it. So like right out of the get-go, we go like, nope, this is how we do things. This is how we streamline things in our clinic. So my front desk is not spending all day swiping credit cards. We do this so when you show up to your appointment, my front desk isn't head down in a computer. They're going, hey, Sally, how did the soccer game go last night? Did he, I know he was nervous. My employees get to be there with you, supporting you and talking to you and not doing all of that clerical stuff. They get it. It may not be their favorite answer, but they get it. So there is still so much work to do from getting the yes. Know that some people are going to say no. And it sucks when they do, especially when they would have gotten, oh my gosh, life-changing results. And especially when you're in a situation like mine, where they're gonna go and sell themselves short and get adjusted once this week, and then maybe go a couple weeks. And like, again, no shame or judgment if that's what you do. But like, this is me. This is coming from my why. And if you don't identify with my why, that's okay. Identify with your own why. That's what I want. It hurts, but you can't care more than they do. You cannot care more than the patient does. Is it your responsibility to connect the dots for them, draw logical conclusions, pique their interest, get them wondering why nobody's asked these bigger questions about their health, get them thinking about, oh yeah, the trajectory I'm on, how is this going to play out for me 10 years from now? Is anybody thinking about my long term? Yeah, why? When my doctor put me on that medication, they never said anything about taking me off. That's just their plan. Like, pique their interest. This is not them marrying you yet. This is them committing to the next 3 months, the next 1 month, the next 4 months, okay? You are planting seeds of like, and after that, well, blah, blah, blah. But like, you still have work to do. Do not assume that they get it, because they don't. They don't get it. If they started calling your office and they were at point A, maybe after the end of day 1, you had them to point B or C. Maybe today you have them to D, E, F, G, H. But if the point is to get them to point Z, where they understand the importance of lifelong chiropractic care, regardless of symptoms, you got work to do. I was going to say sis, but I'm not sure. Like Rachel Hollis got all in trouble for saying sis. And I was like, oh, you're not allowed to say that. So, girl. So that is, they've made an emotional decision. They have said, okay, let's do this. And they're going to go home and they're going to tell their husband, and they're going to have to get analytical in explaining to their husband. And they're going to come to their visit and they're going to get analytical of like, well, why are you adjusting over there? And you need to keep nurturing that table talk. We do rescans. We do progress scans every 12 visits. So if I have a 4-month care plan, they don't just hang out for 48 visits, guys. We do progress exams. Every 12 adjustments, every 4-ish weeks, we're doing a new scan, and I'm going to sit back in that same room with them, And I'm going to go over and I'm going to touch base. How are things going? What are you noticing on your end? Here's what I'm noticing on my end. Yes, you are perfectly on track to still graduate to wellness care at the end of 4 months. We're having that conversation because it's that touch point. I literally just had this with someone a couple days ago. So she's a 36 visit care plan. She's in her early 60s. She has beat up her body for years. She is emotionally stressed. And she has done a different version of chiropractic for most of her life around here. Go 2-3 times a year. Oh, there was a couple years where I was really great and didn't need any chiropractic care at all. So it is day adjustment 11 or adjustment 12 maybe. She gets her progress scan. So I say to her, I'm like, all right, Alex, we'll call her Alex, at your next visit, we're going to sit down, spend a couple minutes going over that scan, seeing what kind of changes are happening, and make sure that we're still on plan. And she goes, I just feel like I should be better than I am by now. And I look her in the eye and I go, Alex, I can understand why you would feel that way. You've never done this style of chiropractic, and coming 3 times a week is a ton of work. But let me be honest with you. If I thought you were going to feel amazing in 12 visits, I would not have sold you 36 visits on your second day here. And she goes, oh, that's a really good point. And I go, yep. So I'll see you at your next visit. We'll look at your scans, see if we need to tweak anything that we're doing, and go from there. So we're touching base, okay? Day 2 is not enough to get them to marry you and understand it all. This is a continuing, nurturing conversation. So if you have a specific question as to whether something is legal or not for you, don't ask me. If you think I'm doing something illegal, feel free to send me a DM. I've done my work and checked with my state association. And so I'm pretty sure that 100% of what we're doing is legal. I may just not have filled in a little bit of a logistics or whatever, but feel free if you're like, hey, Lauryn, I'm kind of concerned that you're going to go to jail for eternity by doing that. But keep in mind, when you're not networked with insurance, you have a lot more freedom, people. But if insurance is working for you, I hope this worked for you. I hope this episode worked for you. I hope you take even an ounce of this passion and inject it into your day 2. Maybe in this process, you're stopping adjusting on day 1 and you are all nervous about this day 2. I hope that this works lovely for you. Don't be afraid to feel scared. Don't be afraid to feel like you've never done this before, like you're stripping on your words. It does take practice, practice, practice. You will get there. All right, She Slayers, until next week, I love you so much. It would mean the world to me if you would screenshot this episode, share it on social media, write a review. That is just the lifeblood of an episode getting out and reaching more people. So until next week, bye.